My name is Leora Eisenberg. I'm a second-year PhD student in the history department here at Harvard, where I study Soviet Central Asia. Indi shabi bud ki ranjide nigaram omad bakhti khandide khiraman va kinaram omad dar labi abi shabi mahtabi nazanin yari mahi bidari dar labi abi shabi mahtabi nazanin yari mahi bidari. Mom is from Russia. She's from St. Petersburg. She immigrated here in 1993. My dad is from Montreal, so he's from Canada, and they met here in the United States. My parents are divorced. My mom is married to my stepdad, who is also Russian from St. Petersburg. So we grew up speaking Russian at home. I was very upset when I was applying to PhD programs because I was pretty convinced I wasn't going to get accepted anywhere, and I was very unhappy for a while. There was a lot of crying about it because 30% of the universities I wanted to apply to weren't accepting anybody, and I knew that the odds were not good. I was very upset about that, and I was rejected from everywhere else I applied to. I mean, I was waitlisted at 2 other schools, but that was pretty bad.
Қанағаттандырылмағандықтарыңыздан.
Давай по слогам, а?
I don't think it's specific to Harvard, but I think in graduate school you have to read a lot of books, and it's taking over my life.
You mean you spend half your life at the library?
I spent my entire weekend reading books, and it's like a full-time job and then plus some. You read, I mean, it's insane. The amount of work you do is ungodly. But I don't think that's something I don't like about Harvard. It's something I don't like about graduate school, and I think that's pretty unique, not unique, pretty universal across graduate schools. So.
Leora. Тоже.
I used to teach English to Ukrainian refugees for 5 hours a week, every week last year, between I would say, beginning of March 2012 to the end of the semester. So it was 2 hours a week with children and 3 hours a week with adults. And that was really important to me, and I felt like with the adults especially, we formed this really, really, really great community. There were I would say between 5 and 10 students who used to come regularly or semi-regularly, and I like to think that it was that 2 of them got into really great universities. One is now at the University of Alberta, and one of them is in, I forget if it's the Technical University of Tallinn or just Tallinn University, I forgot exactly. But they both were accepted, and I like to think that it's our work together that contributed to that in some small way.
Президенттің тәуелсіздік бәрінен қымбат атты мақаласы негіз болды. Жиынға қонақ ретінде ғалымдар, журналистер мен зиялы қауым өкілдері қатысты. Келе алмағандар Zoom платформасы арқылы онлайн қосылды. Жинақтың шығуына септігін тигізген ғалымдар мерейтойлық медальдармен марапатталды.
2018, there was a boy in Central Asia that I don't want to say dating, but we were certainly interested in each other. When I came back to Central Asia a year later, he was dating somebody else and didn't want to see me. So I was pretty upset about that. I remember that. there's a fair number of Central Asian students, and I think that they, like anybody else, would like to share their culture with others. And not just that, but partake in their own culture themselves. I think they want to have the same holidays as everybody else, not as everybody else, but they want to celebrate their holidays just like any other culture would. So I think it's a great thing. And what's nice about Casa Harvard, and I don't know Harvard institutionally well enough to say, but often I think Central Asian societies, or what would be a Central Asian society, would be kind of subsumed under like the Russian-speaking countries club. So I think it's really great that Casa exists independently of that. Jalpa айтқанда, people generally think I'm Tajik or Uyghur, or people usually think that, or Azerbaijani or something.
Ана диегмен тастары жернала деп айтамыз, немесе не деп.
Он жасау
үшін, иә. Бұл үлкен диегмен тастары, бұл диегмен тастарын айналдыру үшін түйенің, жануардың көмегі арқылы айналдырып отырған екен. Мынау қол диегмен тастары, бұларды адамдар өздері айналдыратын болған. Мынаған тары талқар салған, мынандай ұнтақтау арқылы шығып отырған.
Ұнтақтар шетінен шығып.
Иә, ұнтақтар шығып.
Менде сондай бір сұрағым бар, оны қазақшаға, қазақ тілінде оны қояуға тырысам. Просто, стереотип емес па, мен білмеймін, просто қазақтар көшпенді халық деп саналады, бірақ диірмен тастары, олар сельское хозяйство үшін қолданылады. Сондықтан бұл жерде тұрған қазақтар, оларда народное хозяйствомен алысатын ба? Әлде бұл просто менің миымда бұл несостыковка сияқты?
Жоқ, бұл негізінен Сарайшықтың ауа райы, бұл қыстақ деді одан, ана?
I went to Tajikistan in 2017, originally when I was in college. And the point of the program, I won a critical language scholarship, which is a US government-sponsored program that sends US university students abroad to go and work on their language skills, right? And I was learning Farsi, which is spoken in Iran at the time. And because it's a US government-sponsored program, it couldn't send us to Iran, and it certainly couldn't send us to Afghanistan. So it sent us to Tajikistan instead. And everyone had been telling me for a year at that point that Tajiki, I should say, and Farsi are the same thing. Tajiki and Farsi are the same thing. Tajiki and Farsi are the same thing. And literarily, they absolutely are. Literarily, they're very, very, very close, mutually intelligible. But when I got to Dushanbe, I realized that I understood nothing, because the dialect that's spoken in Dushanbe has really, really changed over the decades of Soviet influence and the 90s and globalization and all of that. And I didn't understand anything. And the first weekend that I was there, so I come on, let's say, a Sunday, I don't know, Saturday, and then classes start on Monday. And the first weekend that I was there was Eid. And in Tajikistan, during Eid, you go to different people's houses. So you go from one person's house to another person's house, another person's house. And I was with my host family, and with my host sister, I should say. And first of all, I will say that it was so hard for me to go to these people's houses. I understood nothing that they were saying. And they kept trying to speak to me in Russian, because I speak Russian fluently. They kept trying to speak to me in Russian when I didn't understand Tajiki, and I would become very, very embarrassed. And I would start to cry, because I felt like, why did I come to Tajikistan to speak Russian when I could speak that at home with my parents? And so whenever I felt like I was about to cry, I would go and lock myself in the bathroom so that nobody could see me. And normally if I get flustered in social situations, I start trying to clear the table, but because there's so much respect for the guest, in Central Asia, they weren't allowing me to do that. So I would go and lock myself in the bathroom and cry. 'cause I didn't understand anything. And then my host sister and I took a taxi, like a marshrutka, it's like a shared taxi, back from, whatever house we were at home. And I sat in the worst part of this van, which is the seat next to the driver, because that's the person who collects all the money and opens the door. And I don't know the society. I don't understand anything. So I kept opening and closing the door, and the driver kept saying something to me. Darro o está pošed. And I didn't know what that said. That's gibberish to me. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure, fine, good. And more people come in, more people come out. I close the door. Darro o está pošed. And I was like, what? Yeah, sure, fine, yeah, no problem. And then, people come in and out. I collect money. I close the door again. And then he said it to me in Russian. Or no, he said it to me in Tajiki again, very angrily. Darro o está pošed. And I just kind of looked like this. And my host sister said, am I allowed to swear?
I'll make it deep.
Тише, закрывай дверь, I remember having a little breakdown. I remember crying a lot after that. We finally got off, and then we come home, and my host parents are there with some guests who are our family, and I'm crying, and they say, what's wrong? And I say, I don't understand Tajiki. I want to leave. I hate everything. And they're like, well, we'll just speak to you in Tajiki, and everything will be fine. And everything was. I ended up learning the language relatively well. I took dance class for 6 hours a week, and I got really good at pretending I was Tajik, so I would wear the same clothing that they wore. I did my makeup the same way. Yeah, if I didn't speak for more than 10 seconds, you couldn't tell I wasn't Tajik by the end of my time there in 2017. Yeah, that's my story.
Бізге оның өзінің учаскесін көрсетті, және де ол өзінің жұмыс туралы кішкене әңгіме айтты ол үшін, және де мен одан шабыт алдым, себебі сондай адамдар өте аз Қазақстанда да, Америкада, дүниеде де, сондықтан ол маған қатты ұнады, шабыт алдым, және де бәріміз ол сияқты Егер бәріміз ол сияқты болсақ, просто басқа жер болар еді.
Атырау маленькая страна дегеннен ол көп жерді көрген, білген, аралаған адам. Сондықтан оның көзі ашық. Сондай игілікті істер жасап жатыр ол ерлерменен енді мен толыққанды жұмысым. Просто сіздің әлгі көз қарасыңызды бейнелерім сізге ұнаса болады. Екінші сұрақына...
Қазір, сен кім жайлы айттың қазір?
Ерлан Күмісқалиев туралы, иә.
Енді сарайшық жөнінде кішкене айтып кетсеңіз.
Иә, біз өз мұражайда болдық, бізде пансионда болдық, біз этно юртада болдық, және де бізде раскопкилерге бардық. Және де раскопкида біз өте көп керамика, осколки, біз оларды көрдік. Және де мен үшін бұл типа, как сказать, біз история, бұл тарихты біз сезіндік, біз өзіміздің қолымызбен, себебі біз өте керамику, біз жинал.
In Russian we say лучший враг хорошего, and I really believe that, and I've definitely applied that to my personal life, because sometimes my drive to make things better all the time detracts from my time that I could be spending on other things and other pursuits that are just as valuable, if not more important, in certain parts of my life. I believe that's something that I've used a lot. In Tajik we say as pasha fil nasos, so like don't make a mountain. Don't make a mountain. How do you say it? Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. So like, не строй муху из слона. Yeah, that's one that I've used a lot in Tajik.
Napkrik.
So, any topic you'd like to mention?
Whenever I'm in Kazakhstan, people get really excited because I'm white and I speak Kazakh. And oh my god, біздің қызымыз Leora өте керемет қазақша сөйледі. Wow! Біздің қазақтарымыз солай қазақша сөйлей алмайды ғой. Like, ұят. It's just awful. It drives me crazy. And the second that I speak Kazakh, everyone's like, wow! And they invite me to their house. Like, өте әдеби сөйлейсің, Leora-жан. And they give me all kinds of presents. And they introduce me to their children, and then they always say, біздің қазақтарымыз солай сөйлей алмайды қазақ тілінде. Our Kazakhs can't speak like that.
Сықырлауық.
Сықырлайды есік ашқанда. Қазақтарда ешқашанда кілт болмаған. Мұнда, түнде ұйықтағанда жауып қояды осылай. Ұйықтайды барлығы түнде. Қонақ біреу келсе, мынау сықырлайды. Содан сықырлауық деп қойған. Сықырлауық. Мынау кереге. Мынау кереге. Мынау кереге болғанда, мында барлығы неше кереге, сонша қанатты киіз үй деп айтады. То есть мынандай керегенің басы, мынау бітетін жері. То есть мынау бір кереге.
Бір кереге, бұл екінші кереге.
Мынау екінші, үшінші барлығы 8 кереге. 8 кереге, значит, 8 қанатты киіз үй. Мынандай кереге 12 болатын болса, 12 қанатты киіз үй. 6 болатын болса, 6 қанатты кереге. Енді мына киіз үйдің биіктігін барлығын қолдан жасауға болады. То есть мына киіз үйді биік қылуға да болады, аласа төмен қылуға да болады. Ондықтан мынаны алып бүйтіп тартатын болсақ, мынау биік болады. Жазда ауа көп болады, салқын болады. Мынау биік болатын болса. Қыста наоборот төмен болу керек, сонда жылы болады. Ол үшін мынаны біздер ашамыз.
I don't know. Tourist tips for Central Asia, I guess. Because I can say this as an American, who never grew up going there. I will say you should not eat fruit in Tajikistan without peeling it, otherwise you will get sick. You should always accept food when it's offered to you, otherwise you'll offend somebody. You should always bring lots of gifts with you, small things that you can give to people, because people will always be giving you gifts, and if you're like me, you'll feel bad that you have nothing to give them. If you're in Uzbekistan, make sure to take the Afrasiab train. It's really good. Conversely, if you're in Kazakhstan, never, ever, 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 ever take the 21-hour Platskart train that I once took from Turkestan to Almaty. Never take it again. And I don't recommend that you do either. So, rahmatikalon. Sizlerge rahmet, and all those wonderful things to all those people who have helped shape the scholar I am today.
Great. Thank you.
I don't know that I actually know very many Kazakh proverbs.